All right, we are back for another painting tutorial after what seems like forever. Took a break for the holidays, and then stuff hit the fan, and I think some stuff is starting to resolve itself now and calming down a little bit. So we're back, and we're painting one of these amazing new Goblin Wolf Riders. And yeah, we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to do a not a new painting technique, but a way of painting that I haven't shown on video before. We're going to use contrast paint, and then we're going to use these new D&D prismatic paints, which are made by WizKids, obviously, but the company that makes the paint is Vallejo. And as far as I know, this is just repackaged Vallejo paint, but my local store doesn't sell Vallejo paint, but it does sell these. So I've been using them a lot lately, and they've been pretty cool. So we're just going to use some contrast paint and then do some highlights with these. No real reason in particular, just for fun. I like using them. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Skeleton Horde here. This is going to be our wolf fur color, at least to start off. We're going to darken the wolf's actual modeled fur later, but for now, we're just going to coat him with this. This model is primed first with Abaddon Black, or Chaos Black. Whatever the black in the spray bottle or the spray can is called these days. I think it's Chaos Black still. And then I zenithaled with Corax White. So I'm just gonna get all the skin on this guy completely covered. This kit has gotten me, even though obviously this is not an old world kit, this kit coming out has gotten me pretty hyped for the old world. Really would like to see my orc boar boys come back. I always loved those. Got rid of them when I was younger, the ones I used to have, and I wish I hadn't nowadays, but seems like they're going to be coming back, so that'll be pretty cool. This, well, obviously being an updated model, this kind of feels like an old school model. There's not like a bunch of, I won't say unnecessary detail, because I really like the new Sigmar models with all their flash and cool stuff on them. But, you know, this just, it's a goblin riding a wolf, the end. I think that's pretty cool. So I'll just finish up putting this all over his skin, or her skin maybe. And then once I do that, I will let it dry, and we'll come back and do the next step. All right, we are back. And our skeleton horde is not quite dry, but it's close enough. Now we're going to move on to painting the actual physically modeled fur on him. And for that, we're going to use Garagax Sewer. Give this a good shake. And then we're just going to go relatively carefully, just making sure to only paint the fur itself while leaving the skin this lighter color. When I was doing the skeleton horde, I was able to just go quickly and not worry about things like the leather and stuff, because we're going to use a darker color. But with Garagax Sewer, I am going to want to go pretty slowly because this will show over the leather color we're going to use. And so I don't want to get this on there. So just going right up to the edge of it here. And you just want to make sure that you're getting your contrast paint down into the recesses between these individual strands of hair so that you get the effect you're looking for. And like I said, just being careful around the leather. So I will go ahead and finish this up. I got to do the other side of the head, and then all back here, and then the little tufts down on his feet. But then once I do that, I will come back and we'll do the next step. All right, we are back, and our fur is all nice and dry, although we're not going to work on that area next. We're going to go on to our goblin skin. We're going to use Mantis Warriors Green for this. There are so many different ways to paint goblin skin. There's so many different greens now in the contrast range. So even if you just wanted to stick to contrast, there's a ton of ways to do it. But I really like this Mantis Warriors Green as a base for goblin skin. Militarum Green is also a really nice color for it. Militarum Green is more of the classic Orcs and Goblins color, in my opinion. This is more of the... I'm not exactly sure what this is. This is just a nice bright green. Kind of a cartoony green, I guess, for a goblin. And I am being very careful around this other stuff. A lot of what he has on will be metal or a dark color. But just in case I change my mind about a color, I don't want to have green on it and then decide I want to do a light color and have to repaint the white on and stuff, and it would just be unnecessary. So I'm just going slow, since there's not that much green anyway. Get his ear sticking out here. And his other one as well. And then up under his helmet here. There we go. You do have to kind of spin and rotate this model a little bit to get all the little nooks and crannies of goblin skin. You could also paint him in sub-assemblies if you wanted. You could leave the shield off. That might help, but I'm not really about that life, so we'll just make it a little harder for ourselves. So there we go. On camera, this looks very yellow. Hopefully in the pictures at the end, it will not look as yellow. In person, it's very green, but right here, yellow. I'm just going to go straight into the next color. It's going to be ball red. This is not really like... This isn't the order I would necessarily paint in, but I just really want to see what this plume looks like in red. So, that's what I'm doing. There's nothing necessarily wrong with painting it this early. I just normally wouldn't progress to this right now, but I don't know. The red, for whatever reason in my head, is a classic Orcs and Goblins color and needs to be on this guy. I think the shields might be red on the box art. I don't have the box art handy, but I think the shields might be red. But we're doing our plumes red. I think it looks great. So I will let that stuff dry, figure out what color I'm going to do next, and then I'll come back and do that color. All right, we are back, and I'm going to go ahead and do the leather now. So that'll be with Black Legion, which is very similar to Black Templar, the other contrast black, but this is just a little bit warmer than Black Templar. Black Templar is quite cool. So I'm just going to do all the leather here. And this will be for all the leather on the wolf, but also on him, on the rider. So I'll just do this section here, and then I'll figure out what I'm going to pick out on the rider. So that will probably be, sorry by the way, if you hear squeaking in the background, we just got a new puppy, and he enjoys his squeaker. But, so yeah, I'm just going to do the shirt in this color, and probably the quiver also. Not the wrap on the quiver, just the quiver itself here. And that will be it, I think, for this. So I'll go ahead and finish all that up, Oh, it will be the stuff below the waist here as well. And down here and on the other side of him. So yeah, we'll go ahead and finish that up. And then we will come back and we'll do the secondary leather color. And then we'll be ready to go on to metallics, I think. Alrighty, our Black Legion is drying, or mostly dried. And now we're going to go on to Gore Grunta Fur. And that's going to be our secondary leather color. So that's going to be for things like this wrapping around the wolf's tail here. And then the wrapping on his legs. And we're going to get this this like secondary saddle at the same time. I'm doing maybe somewhat of a more simplified color scheme this time, just because I am going to go back and do a bunch of highlights with the D&D paint I talked about at the beginning. So if I was doing pure contrast and that was going to be the end goal or end result, I might pick a couple more colors and, you know, maybe like do the like clothes of the rider in a different color than these, or do this like secondary saddle in a different color than the other wrapping and stuff. But because I'm going to come back and highlight it, I can not only will it be more steps, and so, you know, I don't want to spend too long on this guy, but also I could use the highlights as differentiation. So for instance, I could, you know, for the wrapping on the bow and quiver here, I could use one color as the highlight, and then on the secondary saddle, I could use a different color. Things like that. And that's, like I said, that's just so the paint job doesn't take super long. I'm going to get the wrapping here on the spear here. The lance, maybe. However you like to think of it. And then just get that back there. Oh, he's got the wrapping here on his other hand. And then probably the handles of the shield will probably be this color as well. I'm pretty tiny in there, but I think I can get them without too much grief. Good enough, anyway. Alrighty. So I'm just thinking. Oh, I gotta get the rest of this. I'm just trying to think of what else we need to do on him before we go to the metallics. I need to get these horns here. I need to get the fur that's on his helmet and on his belt there. And then, oh, and I'm going to do the shield. I'm actually going to do the shield right now real quick. I'm just going to grab another contrast paint, Magma Draw Flame, and we're going to do the inside of his shield in this color. What this method with the highlighting afterward lets me do is normally I'd have to be very careful around this rope because I would need to paint it with a contrast color. And so this orange would cover right over that. But I can just not paint that at all right now and then come back and highlight it with a rope color later. Alrighty, so I'm going to go and let this all dry and think about what color I'm going to do the fur around his helmet and around his belt. And then we will come back once I figure that out and paint those things. Alright, we are back, and I'm going to use Dreadful Visage for this fur. I'm also going to use it for the feathers of his arrows. Again, just like I said last time, if I was doing pure contrast paint, I wouldn't use this color on multiple things like this, the fur and the feathers. But I'll probably just pick a separate color to highlight it with when I come to highlight them. And it'll be all good. Or I'll completely go back on my word and I'll just use the same color to highlight them and, you know, we'll deal with it. We'll see. We shall see. Alright, there's the fur. A little more on top of the feathers there. All right, then you're going to use some skeleton horde, which we already used on this guy, but I realized I need to do the horns on this guy. So we'll do this real quick. And then we just have one more contrast color, I think, and we'll be ready to go to metallics. I'm going to grab the Gorgrunta fur back and just do this wrap up here and the wrap down there in that, but that's the color we already did, so I'm just going to correct those, me forgetting those two things. And then, oh yeah, we have to decide if this is wood. I guess because of the texture here, here, and down there, I guess this is wood. Oh yeah, it's split down there at the end. All right, so there's two more contrast colors, as it turns out. But first of all, we're going to use some Doomfire Magenta to paint the inside of the wolf's mouth. Get the tongue, the gums around the teeth. And this won't be incredibly vibrant just because of our zenithal. It'll still be pretty dark, especially on the top lip and the tongue. But I think it'll still be vibrant enough to get the point across. And then, of course, we're going to paint the teeth. But I just want the inside of his mouth to be this kind of pinkish, reddish color. There we go. And right now, it kind of looks like he's wearing lipstick, but once we paint the teeth, that'll be fine. All right, so then we just need a color for the wood of that handle. I think I'll use Nazdrag Yellow for this. Give this a little bit of a shake because it's been sitting a while. And then just come down. Remember, on smooth surfaces like this that are kind of big, I want to use long strokes to get that nice coverage with the contrast paint, but not leave any splotches anywhere. Just long strokes. And the zenithal is really helping on this. We kind of get a three-tone process here. We get where the white zenithal hit, where the black zenithal was, and then, of course, in the cracks and crevices is a third color. So that's basically what a zenithal does for you, is gives you a third tone on your contrast paint. Instead of just in the cracks and nooks and crannies and out of the nooks and crannies, you have where the black paint was also. All right, so there we go. Oh, he has a bow also. I forgot. He has a bow and he has arrows. So we can do the tops of the fletching in this color and the arrows themselves. There we go. And then the bottom of his bow. And then I'm just going to confirm that there's no wood on the rest of his bow. On the rest of him. I don't think there is. But let's just double check. Nothing here. It's metal, metal. I'm going to get that wrap in a minute. Metal. Yeah, all right. Good. So I'll let this dry. I will correct the two things I forgot with the Gorgrunta fur. And then once this is all dry, we'll come back and start on the metallics. Alrighty, we are back. And for this step, we're going to use a combination of a couple colors. We're going to start with gunmetal. And then we're going to move on to, well, the label's worn away, but this is scale 75 black gold. So I'm just going to get a little bit of both of these out. We're just going to knock out the metallics all at once here. At least before the highlighting step. Get some of this gold out. Alrighty, and then we're going to get the thin brush. And this gold we're going to use for the shield here. So just all the parts here of the shield that are not orange. And I consider the ones on the web store just the metal is the metal and all of the metal is the same color. I decided I wanted two different ones though. I really like black gold. It might be one of my favorite colors that anyone makes. Not even, not even just my favorite Scale 75 color. It might be one of my favorite colors, full stop. So I always like to get it on miniatures when I can, but I didn't want to have the entirety of the metallic on this guy in this color. So figure gunmetal, which is rapidly becoming one of my favorite colors. I don't know exactly how these D&D colors work, but like I said at the beginning, I think they're just rebranded regular Vallejo paint. So I think this is just Vallejo Dark Aluminium, as people call it. Over here in the civilized world, we typically call it dark aluminum, but can't appease everybody, I guess. But it could be a completely different color. I will admit I don't use Vallejo colors very often. These D&D colors are probably not the very first experience I've had with them, but definitely the first regular experience I've had with them. I've painted probably close to 100 miniatures with them at this point, and liking them so far. Got a little bit of fuzz on the end of my brush here. Get rid of that. And then I'm just going to come in and get all the metal on this guy. I think technically these things hanging down on the side of his helmet are leather, but I'm going to paint them metal. Like that whole helmet is made of metal. And then this part up here. So yeah, I'll just go around doing all that. I'm going to paint the studs here on the leather in this color as well. And then there are belt buckles and stuff on this leather. I'm not gonna bother painting them this color. When I bring out my highlight color for silver later, I'm just gonna paint them straight in that color. So I will go through and finish up all this metallic, and then we will come back and finally get into the highlighting step. All right, we are back, and we're going to start off by highlighting the fur of this guy. So I should say before we get started, we're not going to highlight every single thing on this guy. We're going to pick out some of the bigger features and highlight those. So we're going to start with cobalt scales, and then we're going to go to leather brown after that. So I'm just going to get a bit of these on the palette. If you've watched the channel for a long time, or really before at all, you'll know that I don't usually use a palette because I prefer to paint straight from the pot. But with dropper bottles, it's not really an option. I have to put them on something. So yeah, here we are. So I'm just going to start picking out the strands of the fur here. And when they're all clumped together like this, I'm just going to use the side of the brush to kind of hit all of them at once. But I would just want to leave the color in between them, because I don't want to just paint the fur this color. I want to highlight the fur this color. So I'm just being very careful to leave this color down in the recesses as I'm going. And I'm not being too precious about hitting every single strand. Fur, especially on a wolf, probably going to have multiple colors in it, multiple tones. So, and then as I start to get down to away from where the zenithal is and down towards the black, I'm just going to stop so that we get a nice transition down into that dark fur that is kind of in the shadows, basically. So I'm just going to come along here and get a couple of these. And then get this back here. Like that. And then come along the tail. And again, not going, despite the fact that we could easily highlight all down there, I'm staying away from that. I'm just staying up where our zenithal was. Maybe a little more in here. There we go. A little more in here as well. And then just grab a couple of these little spots in here. A little too much there. I'll pull that back off. I got a little too much of this color on the skin, so I'm just going to get my brush wet and just pull that back off. There we go. All right. So then we're going to go into our leather brown. I think that's what that was. Yeah, leather brown. And do the same thing again, but just on the very tips of the fur. So we want to leave some of this cobalt skin in the or on the fur, but just get a little bit of this just on the tips of the strands here. And my leather brown is right next to my my black gold on the palette, so I have to be careful I don't highlight this guy's skin or fur with gold. There we go. And then a little bit on the tail back here. Oh, a little too much leather brown there. Or a little too much cobalt scale, rather. Just come back through here and here. And just the very tips over here. And I got to do this side a little bit more, I think. There we go. And then, finally, we are going to use, where is it? Here we go. Pale Flesh. Just get a little bit of this on the palette. And we're just going to, ever so slightly, just on the fur around his cheeks here. We're going to do this on the very tips of the fur. There we go. And then up around here. And you could do this across all of the fur, but I'm lazy and I don't want to. But I still want to have this sort of light effect on some of the fur, and out near the mouth like this, it'll draw attention to his head and his mouth and stuff. So I will just leave it at that. So that'll be the fur. I will get my colors together to highlight the black, maybe the silver, and then we'll come back and do those steps. All right, we're back. So we're going to put 3 colors on our palettes now. Gray Ooze for one, then follow that up with Stonewall Gray, although actually we're going to do Stonewall Gray and then follow it up with Gray Ooze. And then for the silver, we're going to do the very complicatedly named Silver. So I'll get these out on the palette, starting with Stonewall Gray. And we're just going to highlight the black leather here. And again, we're not going to be super precious about it, but I'm just going to get the big areas here, and I'm going to highlight them. And I'm not going to be super careful about a consistent line, because this is goblin leather after all. I'm not too sure about how particular they would be with the upkeep of their leather. Maybe they would be very particular, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that they wouldn't be. So I'm just going to do some chunky highlighting here. And then up here on the saddle, these belts. Probably a little too much, but I'm going to leave it. Down here on the saddle. Oh, and then the other side here. A little bit more right down there. There we go. And then same thing with the other side. Just kind of jumping around whichever spot jumps out at me. And then I will get his boots and his shoulder or his arms here as well, along with his not scabbard, quiver. And his little tunic there. All right, and then come back and finish over here. Make sure to get the bottoms of these. Come back on the side here and the side over here. And then this needs a little bit more. Oh, and then he's got a belt down here. Let's flip this over and get this one. All right. So I'll rinse my brush, get the point back, and then we're going to go into Gray Ooze, which is slightly lighter than whatever this one was called, Stonewall Gray. Haven't memorized the names of all these colors yet, I will admit. Like I said, I've painted about probably 100 miniatures, maybe a little bit more with these, but I still have not memorized them like I have with the GW colors. So we'll just come down and then we're just going to pick out the brightest points here. So like the edges of these, the main sections here, the bottoms of these, like this. Maybe the saddle here. Basically anywhere that you put the Stonewall Gray, you can come back and in smaller areas put the Gray Ooze. This will just give us a nice weathered black look, black leather look. There we go. That will do. And then we're going to go straight into the silver here. And like I said, we're going to use silver for this. And so we'll start with the silver that's on the leather. And we'll do the fine detail stuff first. So that's going to be the buckles. Just like that. And I think there's one up here as well. Yep, there is. Any buckles here? Yep, one over here. Good. And then we're just going to go and spot highlight all the silver that's on here, all the studs and stuff. And then I'm going to actually grab these while I'm here. These little trinkets or whatever they are. Spin them around. Get these. All right, and then I'm just going to come up and highlight the silver. This has like a quad angled spear, I guess. Just going to highlight all four angles of it. And just get some chunky highlights on the silver up here. And the brim of his hat there. And I think that will be good for the silver. So I will let that dry, get my colors together to highlight the teeth, and we will come back and do that. All right, we're back, and we're going to highlight the teeth now. So we're going to start with gold yellow, then move to bone white, and then finally elfic flesh. So we'll start with gold yellow. And for the teeth in the mouth of the wolf, we are just going to paint basically the entirety of the tooth with this gold, or gold yellow, I should say, all the way down to the root here. Same thing on the bottom. There we go. And then make sure to get the front angle as well. And then get the other side here. All right. And then I'm going to paint his claws this way as well. And then I'm also going to get the goblin's teeth at the same time. Oh, they've got 4 claws. There's a claw over here I missed. And then the back ones. All right, and then the teeth in the goblin's mouth that you can hardly see, but they are there. I'm just going to kind of shove some gold in his mouth, and that'll work. So then we'll go on to bone white. Just going to go straight into this, and probably about 2/3 of the tooth painted with this color. If you do a little bit more, a little bit less, not the end of the world. Just so you can tell that there's just a little bit of yellow showing at the base of each tooth. All right, and then same thing with the claws here. And the claws are bigger, so you can see there that we're keeping the yellow at the base of each one. There we go. And then the back ones as well. There we go. And then the goblin's teeth. We'll just chuck a little bit of that color in there. We'll have to paint his tongue later. But for right now, this will do. Oh, and does he have nails? Yeah, he does. We'll just do that so that we can say we painted his nails. That's good enough. All right, and then finally, elfic flesh. Just a tiny bit of this, and we're just going to dot it on the end of each tooth. Just so it has a spot highlight there right at the end. There we go. All this talk of teeth, I guess, has the new puppy excited, because he's over there chewing on his chew toy. Not the squeaky one though, so. Okay. So that will do it for our, oh, I forgot about these bones here. I'm just going to take the elfic flesh and just kind of do this on the ends. Not because I forgot about them and don't want to highlight all 3 steps of them, but because that's what I wanted to do from the beginning. I promise. I am going to take some bone flesh, though, which is our middle color, and just paint these, ooh, too much paint. Paint these little strings here. There we go. Alrighty, so I will let that dry while I come up with my, while I paint the silver studs on this thing that I forgot to do. But also, while I come up with some highlights for the red, the fur, and the wood here. And then I think we'll just be about ready to call him done. So yeah, we will be right back. Alrighty, we are back, and it is time to highlight the green. I forgot to do the silver studs in between now, or back when I said I was going to in the green, but here we are. I'll do it eventually. So we're going to start with Flame Skull Green. Get some of this on the palette. Sometimes before I start the camera, I remember to put the colors on the palette, and sometimes I don't. And then we're going to follow up Flame Skull Green with Livery Green. This is one of the times that I didn't remember to put the paint on the palette, so here we go. Now it's on the palette. Hooray. All right, so we're going to take Flame Skull Green here. And just highlight, sort of not completely covering this color we have, but just kind of on the larger points of interest on the skin. So the nose here, the cheekbones, the chin, like you saw down the fingers. On the elbow, we'll get the other fingers here. Oh, right over the nail I painted. Great. Now we didn't paint his nails. Oh well. And then on this other elbow here, and then maybe his ears. Why not? And then we'll go straight into our livery green. He says as he checks the bottle. And have too much paint on our brush. And then just do the very edges here. So just the very tops of the knuckles. Little dot on the knees and the elbows. And then a little bit right there. And then a little bit on the ear. A little bit on this ear. And a little bit on this elbow. All right. So then we've got a nice highlighted green. Now we're going to go to the red plume here. We're going to start with bloody red. And we're just going to do the same thing we did with the fur. Just going to come along here and get the tops of all these bits. The bloody red is not going to be that much different than our contrast paint, but should be one of those things where you notice it if it wasn't there. If I held them next to each other, one with the bloody red and one without, sorry, not on camera, you'd be able to tell. And then after that, we'll do our orange fire. Just get a little bit of that on the palette. And then just the very tips of each strand here. Just get a little bit of this. Just like that. And then again on the other side. A little more paint on the brush here. There we go. I was probably off camera again. I'm a little rusty. Been a while. But I'm getting better. There we go. All right, so there's our red, nice and highlighted. And I'm actually just going to take some of this, what did we call this color? Orange fire. And I'm just going to highlight just a little bit of this orange here on the shield. Just kind of come down into the middle here. Just like that. There we go. And so I think we're just about ready for some final details here. So I'm just going to roll straight into those. First, we're going to do Winter Wolf Pelt, which, you know, arguably we could have done on the wolf's pelt. But, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to use this on the fur around his head and around his waist. Just like this. Can't really see it there. Just go here. And then the feathers as well. See, I said I was going to highlight the feathers and the fur in different colors, and I didn't. But you'll have to forgive me. I'm about ready for this guy to be done, to be honest. Then we're going to take a little bit of our blood red, or bloody red, and flip this guy over and just paint the eyes in super quick and easy with some of this red. Get the other eye here. There we go. And I guess we'll do red for the eyes of the wolf also. Why not? Could maybe do yellow, but he's already got yellow on his teeth, so. There we go. That will do. So with that, I think we can call him basically done. I will paint the studs on the shaft of the spear here and make any other final little corrections, but I won't be adding any new colors. And then I'll put him on a base, of course, and then we'll call him done. But right about now, you should be seeing some finished pictures of him on the base that I just described, ready to go into battle as soon as I get his other 9 friends done. But thank you everybody for watching. If you like this kind of video, feel free to click the like button at the bottom. Subscribe to the channel. Sorry for the long delay between videos, but we're getting back to it. And I will see you on the next one.